Hey, I'm Chris, and this is That New England Sound. Recently, I got my hands on some Bowers & Wilkins bookshelf speakers that I had no use for. I reached out to my speaker buddy Michael, and he was interested. Going back to his crowded garage, I knew there would be temptation, but I was not concerned because nothing in the world would make me want to replace my M12s. But then, Michael showed me some speakers that made me say, I have often walked down this street before. The Snell CVs. Holy God. My M12s are fantastic, but the CVs are something else. Just under 4 feet tall, 17 inches deep, and 107 pounds each. Thankfully, I got my hernia fixed earlier this year, otherwise I would be screwed. I continue to seek out the heaviest hi-fi possible. I want components so massive that in 40 years, I'm gonna have to ask my shredded grandchildren to move them around for me. After Peter Snell passed away, Kevin Vakes became chief engineer at Snell. Vakes got his start on the retail side, selling components at his store Natural Sound in Massachusetts. He got to know Peter Snell because one day Snell came in with his Type A speakers and knocked everybody's socks off. Natural Sound was the first and for a while exclusive distributor of Snell speakers. As he ran his shop, Vakes was also experimenting with speakers of his own. He started designing first for Simdex and then Mirage. In 1985, Vakes took the reins at Snell. For 10 years, he built upon Peter Snell's ideas. The Type Cs evolved again and again and became the CVs in 1994. If you compare the original Cs and the CVs, you can barely see the resemblance. 1 year later, Boston Acoustics acquired Snell, and Peter Vakes moved on. We have 2 8-inch woofers that make tremendous bass. These are ported speakers, unlike my M12s, which were sealed cabinets. So these gals need to be as far away from the back wall as possible. We've got 2 5-inch mid-ranges, and in the middle we have a 1-inch titanium dome tweeter, which just sounds so pretty. This configuration of mid-range tweeter mid-range is referred to as a Dapolito array, since it was originally envisioned by Dr. Joseph Dapolito. With the 2 identical mid-range drivers, vertical dispersion is better controlled, so there's less reflections off the ceiling and floor. Sound's axis can change based on the frequency. This is called lobing. The 2 mid-ranges help reduce the lobing. All of that comes together to strengthen the clarity and dynamics of the mid-range, which I can definitely testify to, because the mid-range on these speakers is phenomenal. Still can't tell that the microphone rings like a phone. Let's check out the back. We've got the port for the bass reflex, and below it we've got a common Snell feature, the rear firing tweeter. Down here we've got a switch that turns the rear firing tweeter on and off. We've got a control for the main tweeter's output. Every speaker has a fuse. And then you've got 2 sets of brass binding posts. Much more impressive than my ADS's single set of plastic guys. The 2 sets of binding posts are great because they enable bi-amping. My ATI power amp is super cool, but because these are 8 ohm speakers, it only puts out 150 watts per channel, as opposed to the 225 watts per channel that was put into my 4 ohm M12s. Since these are 8 ohm speakers, the drivers don't need as much power. However, when I hooked them up, the lows, mids, and highs sounded amazing, but it all was very two-dimensional. So I got a second power amplifier. I hooked one up to the lows, one up to the highs. With all that extra power, the third dimension was back, baby. Best of all, when I stacked the 2 amps on top of each other, it made a little face! I've named him Henry Kloss Jr. With the M12s, I was inside a sphere, and all the sounds were placed at different points within the sphere. I measured it by distance. What was closest to me? What was far in the background? With the Snells, I measured the sound by volume, like a liquid. Instead of one all-encompassing sphere, every voice, instrument, ambience has its own sphere of differing size. And what was once the sound closest to me has become the sound taking up the most 3-dimensional space in the room. Before, when music faded in, it would come from far away into the room. Now, It's as if sonic water is rising and filling up the room, and I'm floating right there in the middle of it. This is some high-end hi-fi, my friends. You just know that back in the day, the original owner was some rich guy, and he was coming home to his girlfriend, and he was all like, "Hey babe, I just swung by Tower Records and grabbed the new 9 Inch Nails CD, or Ready to Die, or Vitology, or any of the other seminal 94 albums." And his girlfriend's all like, "That's great, babe. I've got us a couple martinis, some caviar, some Coke. Let's listen to some music and talk about this new North American Free Trade Agreement." One last thing. I said before that I wouldn't get rid of my ADS speakers, and that remains true. I just need to find a new place to put them. I think there's just enough space in my kids' room. They're never too young to start learning about what really sounds good. I imagine my kids growing up and hanging out with their friends and listening to some music on a Bluetooth speaker. And they go, "Oh, I can't believe how crisp the highs are." Like they would think that's good sound. Like, I would have failed them as a father, so I'm sorry. Is it okay if can we just stop?